Okay, we are moving on to Council Bill 20-0630, Building, Fire, and Related Codes, Adoption of International Green Construction Code 2018. Before we begin, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Stegman and/or Nina Themelis from the Mayor's Office of Government Relations. Matt, Nina, if you could just give a very high level, under 60-second overview of what this bill does before we kind of dive into the details from each of our city agencies.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Matt Stegman. So this is the basics is this is part of the revamping of the fire and building codes that the council undertook last year into this year. This particular section just needed a little bit more time to, before it was ready to come before the council. But it's part of that whole process of updating all of the building and fire codes, which we do periodically. And the agencies, specifically DHCD, can certainly get into more detail on that.
Thank you. We're going to start with City Solicitor. Favorable. Approved for form and legal sufficiency, Elena?
Yes, sir. The bill is consistent with the enabling legislation in the state law, and the law department can approve it.
Thank you. Department of Planning, favorable?
Correct. Department of Planning supports this bill, subject to comments by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Board of BMZA?
BMZA recommends approval of this bill.
Favorable. Excellent. Department of Public Works, favorable?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Marcia Collins for the Department of Public Works. Yes, we're here in support of the bill. We wanted to point out that under the Green Construction Code, it also increases the percentage of C&D debris, construction and demolition debris, from 50 to 70%, which will be important for waste diversion. So we heartily support the bill.
Thank you. We are going to, for a moment, go into recess on this bill. Is there a motion to reconsider 20-0628?
So moved.
Motion by Clark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, who was the second?
Mr. Chair.
Bullock. Thank you, Councilman. All those in favor of reconsideration of 20-06, I actually would do roll call. Costello, yes. Clark?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Pinkett?
Yes.
Reisinger?
Yes.
Sneed?
Yes.
Stokes? Councilman Stokes? Okay, Councilman Stokes is absent on that one. 6-0. We will reconsider 0628 in a moment. Oh, Councilman Stokes is a yes. Okay. Is there a motion to move 20-0628 favorably?
So moved.
Motion by Clark, second by Bullock. Costello is a yes. Clark?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Pinkett?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Reisinger?
Yes.
Sneed?
Yes.
Stokes?
Sorry.
Stokes?
Yes.
Thank you. This bill passes 7-0 and moves to second reader on Monday, November 2nd at 5 p.m. We are now back in session for Council Bill 20-0630. We just heard from Department of Public Works. We're going to move to Department of General Services next.
Good morning, Chair and Councilperson. This is Aleia Hendricks on behalf of DGS, and we have no opposition to the bill.
So do you have no opposition, or are you favorable?
Favorable.
Favorable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Department of Transportation.
Mr. Chair, this is Liam Davis from the Department of Transportation. We are favorable as well. We stand by our bill report.
Okay, Matt, we have that bill report on file?
It was submitted this morning as well, so it might have gotten to you guys late. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
No need to apologize. I know how busy you all are at DOT. Appreciate all the hard work. But as I say to every agency moving forward, please do your very best to get those in on time. Thank you, Liam. Fire department? Fire department? Matt, Nina? Can everyone hear me?
You're good.
Matt Stegman, Nina Themelis? Okay, well, this was a request from the administration to expedite the hearing of this. We are not going to move this bill today until we hear from the fire department. So please, Matt, Nina, if you can hear me, please make sure we get someone from the fire department on the line. I'm not sure how we can pass zoning and fire code bill, or building and fire code bill without fire department's input.
Mr. Chair, this is Nina Themelis. I will reach out to the fire department right now, make sure somebody joins the hearing.
Thank you, as always, Nina. Greatly appreciated. We're going to move over to DHCD. You are favorable? And you're on mute, Stephanie.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Stephanie Murdoch, Legislative Liaison for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm joined here today by Assistant Deputy Commissioner Katie Byrne. We do stand by our report in support. If you'll indulge me, I can get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of the bill.
I think we'll take an appetizer of the meat and potatoes, not a full entree, please and thank you.
Okay, so as Matt mentioned, this bill essentially brings one chapter up to date of the building, fire, and related codes that you approved earlier this year. The IGCC applies to construction requirements intended to reduce the negative impacts and increase the positive impacts on the built environment, as well as the health of our communities. The city is currently operating under the 2012 version of the IGCC, and an update to the code must be done to keep all adopted building codes consistent and coordinated, as well as keep pace with the changes in accepted green building standards. As with the 2012 code, the IGC does not apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings or smaller multifamily dwelling units. One of the larger changes is that this 2018 update will expand the alternative compliance path section of third-party green building certifications to include the green globes. Before I turn it over to questions, I would be remiss not to thank the members of the IGCC work group, which included members of the building and sustainability industries whose input was invaluable. So if I could just thank Lisa Ferretto, Ben Rausch, Peter Dew, Tim Baracco, and of course, Katie Byrne, who was one of our architects, and of course, Avery Avenstark, who painstakingly worked with us to put this legislation together. And we stand by for questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, Katie Byrne, always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for all your great work. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Councilman Costello. Nothing more to add. As Stephanie said, it took us a little longer to do this one. We worked extensively with people in the industry, both in sustainability and in private practice, architects and engineers, to make sure that we got it right. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Nina, Matt, do we have someone from fire available yet?
Mr. Chair, Nina Themelis. They are joining shortly. They have not joined the line as of yet, but we will have the fire marshal joining momentarily. So I apologize
Thank
for the
you.
delay.
No worries. Thank you, Nina. Colleagues, any questions for any councilwoman?
Yes, I have a question for Stephanie and Katie, and thanks for this work. Can you just explain, which I've never quite understood, who this does apply to? And you're talking about the work locally of putting together the update to this chapter. So who really does this code apply to? What structures? How mandatory is it in the city? And how much are you taking from the international code, and how much have you added like locally? If you get my gist.
I do. I get where you're coming from. So it applies to really all buildings that are not residential, and it applies to the large residential buildings. So the big multifamilies mostly applies to new construction, right? But it also applies to existing buildings. So anybody that does any renovation, any kind of construction, they have to comply with green building. So when you apply for a building permit, say to build a new, say 4-story office building, you have to choose a green building path. So you can use a third-party certification like LEED or NGBS or Green Globes, which we added this year, or you can you can choose the IGCC. And what the
IGCC.
Right, that's what this is. So this is our adoption of the International Green Construction Code. And the way that the code families work is you have the International Code Council created the plumbing code, the electrical code, the building code, the existing building code, and they also created a green building code. And that's what this is. So our chapter dedicated to the green building code, it intersects with the regular building code, the existing building code, the energy code, all of them work together. So if you choose to build a new office building in Baltimore City, you have to apply for your regular building permits anyway, right? So you do that, and then you have a choice how you want to make that green, right? We have a mandatory green building code, so you can choose to stay in the code families because we've adopted the 2018 IGCC. Or if you want to be a LEED building, because there's certain perks and advantages to being a LEED building, you could just be a LEED building, and then you don't have to worry about using the IGCC. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Now, how much leeway do you have, or did you take in just locally putting things into this chapter?
Right. Well, it was more taking things out than putting things in. There was some pretty stringent, or I would say difficult things to achieve in the IGCC, and that didn't necessarily apply to us. So we're a city that's a built environment. So like, for example, for green roofs, when you're calculating, impervious surface, or if you're going to have a green roof, we took out where you would have, say, your AC unit, if that was on your roof, right? We didn't calculate that as part of your roof for trying to make a determination as to how much coverage you should have. So things like that.
Okay.
But overall, like say for water, right? We're looking for better water efficiency. So we're looking for you to reduce your water consumption by a certain percentage. For the waste stream, for example, like Marcia was talking about, the code originally said we want 50% diverted. But what we found in talking to industry professionals, that it's actually 70% diversion for your construction debris is achievable on a regular basis. And it's already happening with a lot of projects. So we basically kept that bar with what's achievable. So that's why working with industry professionals, we got that realistic feedback as to not only what's good for the environment and sustainability, but what's really achievable by developers and people building buildings.
So basically, you're going to build a new building in Baltimore that's residential or commercial or industrial. You got to find a pathway to comply with green building code requirements, or pick a pathway that is like a LEEDs that is accepted by the city as a good alternative.
Correct. So if you think about where we started, so we started with our mandatory green building back in 2009. And that's when,
I remember.
You remember? Do you remember? Yeah. It was Councilman Kraft's original. He was like, we're going to have a mandatory green building here in Baltimore City. And this is how we're going to do it. And it was LEED or the city's alternative, which was our Baltimore City Green Building Standard. But as things changed, right, we realized in 2012, 2013, and 14, when LEED went from version 3 to version 4, that we couldn't every 3 years create our own code. So what we did was in 2014, adopted our first IGCC, International Green Construction Code, using their 2012 version. But you know, so that we've been doing this since 2009, and now today you actually have more options than you ever did to build green in the city.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. I just remembered I was vice chair of this committee when that got done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Katie. Good work. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you. I understand we have Fire Marshal Derek Reddy on the line.
That's correct.
Mr. Fire Marshal, if you could let us know what your position on this bill is.
Okay, I have no issues. I just jumped in at the last. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep. Are you favorable, unfavorable?
I'm favorable.
You're favorable. Okay.
Okay.
Matt and Nina, do we have an agency comments report from Fire?
No, but we can get one for the file as soon as possible.
Yes, please get one for the file. Chief Reddy, appreciate all your hard work with the Fire Marshal's office. I'm asking all agencies who didn't submit an agency comments report to please try and submit these reports on time. They help inform the committee and help us understand the operational impact that legislation like this will have on our city agencies. So we want to make sure we're taking your position on these bills into consideration, but we can't do that unless we have that agency comments report in advance of the hearing. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I was just surprised at this bill about 15 minutes ago, but no problem.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Colleagues, any other questions for city agencies? All right. I want to thank all of our city agencies for their hard work on this, as well as the Herculean task of actually enforcing this behemoth of a document. So thank you. With that, is there a motion to move the bill favorably?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Clark.
Second by Councilman Stokes.
Second by Stokes. Costello is a yes. Clark.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Pinkett.
Yes.
Reisinger.
Yes.
Sneed.
Yes.
Stokes. Stokes.
Again.
Thank you. This bill passes 7-0 and moves to second reader on Monday, November 2nd at 5 p.m. We are now in recess. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.